up, nerds? How we
Welcome
doing
back.
tonight?
Welcome.
Harry and I saw a movie this weekend. You might know what the movie is. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume
Volume
3.
3.
We were both super excited to go see this. Luckily, we were able to get in this weekend, and we were able to put out this official review. This is the first Nerdcast review, which is pretty cool. Definitely looking forward to doing a lot more of these, especially when they're as good as this movie. Spoiler alert, by the way, we will be ruining this entire movie
Yeah, if you
for
have
you.
not seen it, please do not watch this and or blame me or us. We are not held accountable for you watching past this moment right now. Go watch the movie first, then come look
Mm-hmm,
tune back in after.
Hit pause on this video, go watch the movie, and then come back.
Absolutely.
All right, last warning, and we're in spoiler territory. Welcome to everybody that has watched the movie.
Yes.
um, all right, so we kind of just Harry and I really like this movie. I think both of us did. So we kind of just wanted to go through this movie and kind of go beat by beat through the story and just talk about the things we liked, things we didn't like, what we thought worked, what we thought didn't work, and at the end we're going to give our kind of overall assessment and talk about anything that we didn't get to while kind of going through the beat. So Harry, why don't you set up this first scene for us here? It's actually pretty dope way to start the movie.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know if everyone realizes like what's happening. Like this is basically starting after Endgame happened. So Endgame happened. The Guardians went back into space and were doing Guardian things at this point. They're setting up their home base at a place called Nowhere, which you were introduced in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which is it's a severed head of a celestial, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, if you read the comics, that severed head of a celestial should be done by the one and only, which is Null, who is the god of symbiotes. He's the one that killed that celestial, and that head was just floating. And then in the first movie, I think that there was like a colony on it, and they were using it. They were using all like the organic matter to like sell it on the black market or whatever. Anyways, Guardians take over this as their home base, and you just see the opening scenes, and has one of the best soundtracks. I mean, Guardians movies, they always come with the heat. They have Creep going on, but it's like a very slowed down version. You see Rocket sitting there, he's walking through. You start to see like all the cool projects that the Guardians have at this place. They're putting up their sign, which has Guardians of the Galaxy, but I believe it's in Cree. I think that it's in Cree.
Yeah,
It's
that
like
was
the
in
language, like
Korea.
you can't
Yep.
read it. And he's just going through the songs playing. You start to see some of the characters that you've seen in some of the other movies. And he keeps going through, and he ends up in a bar where you see Quill, and he's just sitting there, just passed out, drunk, in a depressed state because Gamora's gone. He has no idea what to do with himself. Then he's
Yeah,
sitting there. They
Quill
get
is
into a
on
little
his
argument.
fat Thor shit right now.
Yeah, literally. He has his little They have their little argument. Quill gets knocked out, and then they pick him up, and all the Guardians walk him back to his room, like they've been doing this for the last like 5-6 weeks. Like it's just
Yeah, it was
a
completely normal.
regular Tuesday night, and they're all kind of worried about him, obviously. But this scene was cool because it was kind of catching everybody up. It's kind of like when they started some of the other movies since Endgame, where they kind of try and summarize what happened since the blip, or since all the people came back after Endgame was finalized and they defeated Thanos. So it kind of shows you like what's going on in different parts of the galaxy. Um, but this scene's cool. I mean, like I said, you're starting to see all the projects and stuff. And then after a couple of, I think it's like another 10 minutes, out of nowhere, an action scene just breaks out. We have a
Yeah,
new
fucking Rocket
character.
has his Zune, bro. Like,
Yeah.
if you're a real OG, you know about Zune. Uh,
Yeah.
Fun fact, real quick, before just a brief intermission, I was Googling today because I was like, I guarantee you this movie spiked like people's interest in what a Zune is. So sure
Oh
enough,
yeah,
I went on Google and Microsoft is like trying to bring Zune back now. I'm
trying to
like,
sell them. Yeah, that's
yeah,
so
like
funny.
it's
That I mean,
hilarious.
that at the end of the second movie, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, so Zune is like when when Apple iPods were going crazy, Microsoft tried to compete with it, and they created this. It looked like an iPod essentially. And it was called Zune,
Yeah,
and it was like Microsoft Music. It was kind
I
of the
had
same
one
thing.
actually. They were dope.
It's kind of the
I had a
same thing
little
as
had a
yeah,
little
it had a
trackpad on it.
screen.
Mhm.
It just didn't take. I mean, Apple, anything that challenges Apple always dies. I mean, Apple's just such a superior company for aesthetics, and they created a name for themselves, which is kind of crazy because Microsoft is just as big. Anyways, at the end of the second movie, Peter's Walkman gets destroyed by Ego. So the Ravagers end up giving him a Zune that has all of the music from like the 50s, has 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then it had like hits today or whatever, which was
Yeah,
cool.
my boy got the fat upgrade. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
he got all the music he possibly could want. Um, but yeah, so Rocket's literally Rocket's just vibing out, vibing out,
And gets
and
his
out of
shit
nowhere
slammed.
just gets tackled by a golden pony
Dickhead.
boy. Yeah, just
Yeah.
nobody knows what's happening. Nobody knows who
There's
this
a slight
character
difference in
is.
what we used to describe him there.
Yes. Um all like if you read comic books prior, as soon as you saw this character, you probably should have known who it was. No introduction, just slam Rocket. Rocket gets away and Guardians go into full-fledged defense mode. They start coming out. They're fighting. Hears the ruckus, comes outside, and this dude is just tearing the place up, trying to essentially kill Rocket or hurt him so he can capture him. And everyone's fighting. Everyone's taking their turns. So at this scene, basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to show how strong this individual is because they let him take on each character one on one instead of
Yeah,
like all
he's
the
kind of
guardians
clapping
fighting him at the
cheeks a little
same
bit.
time. Yeah, and he's just fighting everybody and winning. One like every 1v1 he's essentially winning. And then Rocket just gets blasted with a stray shot right in the chest. And this is when the
And
plot
that's where
of
the
the
whole
whole
movie comes
movie
from. Yep.
gets set up. Is Rocket gets hurt and he is unsavable at this moment because we find out that he cannot be healed with a heal pack because he has a kill switch on his heart from whoever his creator is, which basically means that the electronics from the heal pack is interfering with the kill switch, and if they leave it on, it'll just kill it. Like the kill switch will just go and he'll die. So now they injure this unknown character, this golden man, who then flies away. Um, and then they
Let's
realize
not
that they have
forget
to do.
Nebula gets his ass clean.
Yeah, she
What
catches him a
is
couple times.
she stabbed him, and that's
Hmm.
why he flies away. She stabs him in the back, and he goes, "Oh, that hurts." And
Yeah, and
this
in
is
this weird British accent.
yeah, this is where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start. I like this movie a lot. I'm preface it with that, but I'm gonna start bitching now. The moment he spoke, I'm instantly pissed. Like he flies in, right? He looks kind of badass, like in the CGI. I'm like,
And
okay, like
what's his name, Sean?
in the movie or the actor's name.
No, the actual like the character. What's the
Oh, Adam
character's name?
Warlock. Adam Warlock. So I was confused. I was like, why do we care
Yeah,
about the actor? He's
catch you
shit.
with a stray. What's the name of the actor, sir?
His name's Will Poulter, and he's shit. Okay, he's a total ass in this movie. I've never seen him in anything else actually. Um, but yeah, so first thing he does is fly in, slam Rocket right in the shit, and I'm just like, okay, that looked pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like the CGI looked pretty good. The effects around him, like when he flew in, were pretty dope. Um,
His
And then
powers looked cool when he
yeah, his
started
powers did look cool.
shooting beams of energy, that
The
like
the
cosmic
fight
energy. That
scene,
was
the
cool.
fight scenes were dope.
Mhm.
And then he opens his mouth after he gets stabbed and says, "Well, that hurt. It reminded me of Charlie bit me." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? They're gonna make him an idiot." The first time he speaks, I go, "That's it. They made him an idiot. He's gonna
No,
be an
before
idiot the whole movie."
he talks before that he gets slapped in the face with the arrow, and they said, "Who threw that?"
That's true. That's true. He didn't give me idiot vibes yet though. Like
It
I
was
thought that
still
was
pretty
just
bad. It
like
was
a
still pretty weak. It was like a I don't even know how to. He sounded like a boy. Like he sounded like a boy, like trying to make his voice like
I'm not
who
gonna lie,
who
I thought
threw
it was
that?
just a bad like MCU joke. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, this is just a bad MCU joke. And then when he gets stabbed, he's like, well, that hurt. Like, oh, bitch,
You
here
hurt
we
me.
go. Here we
And then he just
fucking
disappeared.
go.
Like no one looks at him, and he just flies away. Like, come on, there's a whole town watching the fight scene, and no one's gonna be like, "Hey, he's flying away. He's getting away." Everyone's just like, "Let him go.
Yeah, no,
Let that
he's
man
fucking
go."
beating
He
her
just
ass.
he
Let him
just
go.
he just blasted Rocket with a cosmic beam. Let him fly the fuck out of here. Like
Fucking
what?
male Captain Marvel just came in this bitch and just fucking annihilated
Literally.
us.
Shot a beam out of his hand. We should be a little bit more
Literally.
concerned than just seeing if he gets up and walks away.
And then the other thing I did not like in this part was that, like after you've seen the whole movie, and not to jump ahead, but after you've seen the whole movie and you realize what the motivations of the main villain are, because Adam Warlock's like the B villain. Um, the main villain, his motivation is to get Rocket's brain alive. Why
Mhm.
the fuck, if you're he sends Adam Warlock to do this and tells him, I want him alive. I need his brain. So if you're Adam Warlock, you thought it was okay to just fucking slam a raccoon through like 10 fucking concrete walls and then shoot him in the chest with a,
With a
a massive
cosmic
energy
beam.
beam.
Yeah.
And then it all makes sense after I find out he's actually fucking brain dead. I go, oh, okay. It's not actually a plot hole or bad writing.
He's
Adam
just
Warlock is
dumb.
officially brain dead.
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh, we got some technical difficulties.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back.
We'll fix it in post. Just kidding. I have the fucking editing skills of a 9-year-old
That's
with
funny.
no hands.
Um,
All right. So Adam Warlock comes in, fucks their shit up, blasts off, cries to mom. And then where do we go from there?
so at this point, now everyone's kind of freaking out because nobody knows Rocket's backstory. Because like if you've seen the other two movies, he's very private about his backstory. The only time he really kind of opens up about it is in the first movie when they are all they're like at a bar and like they're all drinking and they're waiting to hear from Gamora's contact, which is the collector,
Mhm.
for them to sell the Power Stone. And they both get drunk. Him and Drax get into this big fight, and he basically tells them, he like breaks down into his story for the first time, saying, "I didn't ask to be made. I didn't ask to be torn apart over and over again and put back together for them to turn me into a monster." And it all gets sparked because Drax calls him a rodent, and Drax calls him a rodent. Gamora calls him something else, and Peter always calls him like a squirrel or a rat or a fox or whatever. Like it's always something different. But he like was drinking, so it finally got to him. Like he kind of like lashed out a little bit. That's really
Yep.
all you really know about his story, because you see in the first movie when they go to prison, like Peter Quill sees him for the first time without a shirt, and like you can see all like the
The
stuff that's been done
scars
to
and
him.
stuff. Yeah.
He's got scars, he's got metal plates in him, all kinds of stuff. So no one really knows anything about him. So now that he's hurt and he's dying, they're trying to do whatever they can to figure out. Nebula plugs in because she realizes that obviously he has technology in him and she can download technology and read through it, because her dad was the worst abuser of all time and basically did the same thing to her that was done to Rocket and tore her apart and upgraded her with with technology and all this stuff. So if anyone feels anything towards him, it's her. She understands what he went through, and then
Yeah, let's not
then they
forget in Endgame, like everybody gets dusted except for them
yeah.
from the Guardians.
Hmm.
So it's just Rocket and Nebula for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, and then like also Rocket thought Nebula was dead because
Hmm.
it was Tony and Nebula on that ship until they saved them.
Right.
Um, so Rocket and Nebula definitely form like a stronger relationship
Oh, for
post
sure.
Endgame.
And
Um,
they don't really touch on that. I think like when they do like she's showing like little bits and pieces of his memory of
mhm.
him like of him like getting hurt, and like flashbacks of what he's seen through his eyes. She starts to kind of tear up a little bit, like this is
Yeah,
worse.
she gets affected by that for
Yeah, she
sure.
says this is worse than what Thanos did to me. So she's like all in, like she wants to do everything she can to help. And she obviously, Nebula does not show emotion by any means. So this was kind of a big character change for her at this point, because she actually felt like she could relate to somebody. And I think
Mhm.
Nebula's biggest thing throughout all of the movies is that she has no one to relate to ever, or no one can relate to her. Like she's always
And she
second choice.
constantly yeah, I was just about to say that she
She's
constantly
always a
feels like
second
she's playing
choice.
second fiddle, and that's something
Yeah.
that actually stood out to me in the, that opening scene, not to go backwards, but in that opening scene when,
I love you,
uh
Gamora. And she kind of got
yeah,
upset. Hmm.
yeah, you could see, like, she felt some type of way about that or whatever,
Yeah.
and it kinda, like, like, insinuated, like, Star-Lord had some kinda thing for her, like,
Yeah. Throughout the
when
movie,
Gamora
they kind of did some funny stuff there.
well, yeah, Gamora was like, "That sounds more like her, not me." And,
Yeah.
he looks at her, he's like, "Oh, I love your eyes." And she's like, "Thanks, they're a torture device from Thanos."
Yeah, I just
Like,
didn't realize how black they were.
yeah. Man's
um,
man's fucking
I'm just,
risen her up, boy.
I'm just saying he picked a pretty set.
God damn. Yo, my boy was risen the shit out of her.
So, anyways, after Nebula starts showing everyone, everyone kind of starts freaking out, like, oh shit, like what the hell happened to this kid? Like, what the hell happened to this guy? Like, this is our best friend. Like, we didn't realize that this was the kind of torture and trials and tribulations that he went through. And
Mhm.
now they're starting to find out what they need to do to save him. So they start coming up like, we can't, basically Nebula can't crack the code, can't get the kill switch to come off, and they realize that they have to go to the company that created him.
And this is where
And
we get our first MacGuffin of the movie. Well,
yes,
really the only MacGuffin, with that code. But this is also kind of where we start getting the flashback scenes, right?
yeah, that's the first time you see that's when Nebula like is scanning through and she's showing everybody, like she scans those
No, I
couple
mean
memories.
from Rocket's perspective.
Oh yeah, you
After that
start to
is we
get.
get our first like
I
actual
think
flashback.
when they realize where they have to go and they start flying there, that's
Yeah,
when
it
he has
cuts to
like the
that, right?
flashbacks, and then they cut to him. They cut to them showing up to the like the satellite station, or the satellite office that they have to go into.
Right. I think those are the best parts of the movie for me.
Oh,
Those
the cutscenes.
flashback scenes. Yeah.
Well, what's cool about them too is that James Gunn did a really good job about when he decided to put them in, because he had set up, because like almost like Star Wars, where they say something and then you just see like a comb over and then they're teleported to that planet. Instead of
Yeah.
doing something like that, they say that they have to go somewhere and flashback. And that time that they're traveling, you just see a flashback of kind of the backstory of the origins of what's happening to Rocket. And then
Mhm.
they cut the flashback and then they're at their destination where they need to be. So it's very good time management throughout the
Mhm.
plot, which I really liked, that they didn't try and shove just one flashback through for to try and explain everything. It
Cover
was
the whole
multiple.
thing. And I think
Right.
he also did a good job, James Gunn did, of mixing because this is one of those movies that's a good movie, but I don't know how well it's gonna do box office wise because I can't see myself going back to the movie theater to watch this. This shit was kind of sad. Like it's a
Yeah.
very dark movie and there's a lot of down scenes. It's kind of like I don't know, fucking Bambi. You know, like how many times do you want to see Bambi's mom get shot? Like, if I have to fucking watch Lila the fucking otter get shot in the chest one more time, I don't know if I'll make it. I don't know if I can do it. When my boy Toofs, when he gets clapped up, when he gets straight up domed, my face was wet, bruh. Um, so I don't know. My point is, I don't know how many people are gonna go back and watch this multiple times, and it's gonna affect the box office. Um,
I
but
think that it could, but I feel like they did like as sad as some of the scenes were. Once
they mixed it
again, I
up
think it's
good.
very creative on how they led the comic relief into easing you into some of these scenes, because I think James Gunn realized that people have soft spots for animals, especially. So, like, whenever there's like any sort of animal abuse or anything like that, and they're going into things deeper, they do a really good job of softening things up before.
Hmm.
So, like all the comic relief scenes with Drax and Mantis, like they have a good, there's a, like I said before, there's a good timeline for when they have a flashback, and then when they give you time to like get over it, and then they give you another flashback, then give you time to get over it. So I feel like they really did do a really good job of having like bitter and sweet like
Yeah,
survive in the
I
same movie.
I agree. I think that I made a note like mentally in the movie, like he after each scene there was a comedic relief scene. After each
Hmm.
flashback scene that had like a lot
Yeah.
of emotion and sadness, there was you know the comedic scene right afterwards. Like the I think the first flashback scene is followed up with that scene that they're like flying around in spacesuits and Peter is like fucking confessing his love for this Gamora. And he
Yeah.
thinks he's
What
having a
they
private chat and he wasn't.
I'm pretty sure like in the first after the first flashback, they cut like they cut to Drax. They show up. They show up to the place, and they're like, "Oh, we have to go to this. We have to go to this place to see if they have the key code to
Yeah.
break the lock." And
Are you
Drax
talking about
goes,
the suits?
no, before that, like before they get
Uh,
in the suits, he's like, we're gonna go there and kill them all. And then Peter Quill's
oh
like,
yeah.
no, we're not gonna kill anyone. He's like, all right, fine, we'll kill 6 guys. And he's like, no, he's like, fine, we'll kill one stupid lonely guy. And he's like, I'm feeling like this is a lot more personable for you. Like this is kind of getting creepy. And like then I think then the Ravagers break in. And which once again, this is another cool thing. Like the Ravagers break in. Peter Quill has no idea what's going on. They all think that they're getting invaded. Nebula set all of this up because she didn't want to get anyone worked up with them getting after Rocket's down. They didn't want to get
Hmm.
any more. She didn't want to get any more emotion going on with the fact that the Gamora that's not the Gamora that Peter Quill fell in love with. This is the Gamora that came back with the Thanos that was in Endgame, which wasn't the original Thanos. This is a Thanos from a different timeline. So this is the
Technically,
same thing with this Gamora.
this is Gamora from 2014. Technically, I
Right.
think.
No, but I think it's before that. I think it's before that. But they have um they have them come in, but the really cool scene of what they do is they have one of the Ravengers is using a sling ring, and
Oh yeah.
he's creating portals like Doctor Strange does, and the only way you can do that is obviously you have to be able to understand magic, so you have to read some of the scriptures that the warlocks have, and you have to have a sling ring. That's the only way that you can create the portal. So that was cool, and they didn't really
That
touch on
was
it.
cool.
It was just kind of just like, yeah, like these everyone like Ravengers kind of is every like has a little bit of everybody. So this guy was probably someone that like failed out of some of the trainings to become a wizard and kept a sling ring, and I
He
guess
got
went to
kicked out
go
of Hogwarts,
steal.
is what you're telling me?
Yeah, essentially. But I thought that was a cool but weird way for them to like dock a ship, because like they show all the ships like flying onto it and like locking in, but instead of them just like coming in through, they just decided to have sling ring portals, which was kind of different. But then
I thought it was a
whatever,
really cool scene, and
it was a cool scene. I was not
I was not
expecting that. I thought
expecting
Doctor Strange was gonna pop out. I was like, the hell is, or like Wong, like
Dude,
like
I was so
something.
confused. I was like, what the fuck is
Yeah,
happening?
it's not
Why are
something
there
weird.
Doctor Strange portals popping up everywhere? I
Yeah.
was like,
Um,
oh my god, here we go. We got Doctor Strange coming into the mix now. How the fuck is this gonna tie in?
right.
I was
This,
actually kind of mad. I didn't want it to happen.
I know. But to set this next scene, now like they're they know where they're supposed to be. The Ravengers are there. They find out Gamora is leading the Ravengers. Peter Quill has a mental breakdown as soon as he sees her, basically
Yeah.
like a teenage boy, like doesn't know how to react. And he's kind of like he gets mad at Nebula, and Nebula's like, "We're not doing this right here. Like everyone's here. We need to save Rocket." So they go through this thing. They have to put on these suits. They have to get into this private security like space station in order to try and see if they can get the
Yeah, it was like an organic space station made out
I
of
forgot what the name of the company
biomaterial.
was. It was like Cybotronic something.
It's like
And that's
Organotech or some shit like
yeah, and
that.
that is the company that the High
Made the
Evolutionary, as we get
mhm,
through, does all of his projects through. Like he made that company, which
to
is
cover up
like
his illegal
to cover up
activities.
his experiments and shit. But this is where Rocket's information's supposed to be. So they sneak in, they get on the ship after they do a bunch of comedic relief of them flying in these Teletubby
Ton,
suits.
Tons of funny stuff, some cool scenes, a little self-indulgent by James Gunn here. Like it, I think one of my overarching issues with this movie was the length, and a lot of stuff could have been cut.
It was very, very
Um,
long.
so this is one of the scenes that I think really it lasted way too long.
Yeah, them
Um,
flying, doing just funny things. Like Mantis
yeah,
is always landing on her neck, always slamming her neck in every scene of that movie. I don't understand why
literally.
they chose to do that. Like Mantis literally breaks her neck in every single scene that she falls. Like,
Uh,
I didn't understand that.
got the world's strongest neck, bro.
I guess
Um,
I guess so. Those antennas have some serious breakage in her falls.
she's girthy, bro. I don't
I guess so.
know. Yeah, so I thought that scene lasted way too long. The space station scene in general was really cool, I thought, but not like 1000% necessary, you know?
Yeah, they didn't really get anything out of it for the most part. They got
Mm,
they got something where they got what they needed to kill the kill switch for
But
Rocket.
it ends up being pointless because then they find out that they just have to go get the fat Asian guy.
Yes, because he erased what was in that
Yeah.
file that they took. So they did like I think that scene was like 20-25 minutes because they had a big fight scene in there.
Mhm. And
They
don't get me wrong,
had
the fight scenes were kinda cool, like
the
Drax
fight
is
scene the fight
beating
scene
some
was
ass.
cool.
Yeah.
Drax was beating ass. They did a lot. I think the most important part of the whole scene and why I think James Gunn did it was because during this whole interaction of this organic space station that they're in trying to get information for Rocket, they really hammered down on the relationship between Quill and the new Gamora, and
Yeah.
they did a very good job of kind of showing you that they're not going to make it like a lovey-dovey scene. Like they made Gamora like the original Gamora that you saw, which was a like not a hero, but like a war criminal essentially,
She
who was
was
just
she was a
cold-hearted,
warlord, just like Thanos.
cold-hearted, and to the point. And Thanos and Quill was doing everything he could to convince her that they were together and that she just needs to remember because he doesn't understand, which once like you have to understand from his side, like he has no idea about like multiverse stuff or a different timelines. Like all he sees is the woman's face of the person that he loves. She died, but now she's here, and all he thinks is that that's her, and it's not her. But they do a very good job of them going back and forth, like him like trying to convince her, like, oh, we used to do this, and she's like, I don't know you, and like something else would happen, like, oh, like we used to love this, and she would continue over and over and over again and be like, I don't know you, I don't know you. But as things start to transpire, you start to see Peter turn into the old Quill, which is like the old Star-Lord, where he's not like a goody two shoes anymore. Like in these scenes, like he starts to be a little bit more clever and a little bit more how he was when he was a thief, and starts to lie and like do things to manipulate. And Gamora, which is the same way the other Gamora started to fall in love with him, starts to see
Uh-huh.
these tendencies and starts to be like, what's the deal with this dude? Like for the first scene when they go in and he has a gun to this girl, or he tries to seduce the girl that's holding all of the files, and she just
Yeah.
comes in with a gun or whatever, and then they go back and forth, and then fast forward again with that same girl that was with the files. He starts to seduce her into giving him access to talk to all of the surrogates that are about to kill his friends. And as
Hmm.
soon as he gets access, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to talk to them. I just needed to persuade you to let me in, so now I can shut down all their suits." So like
Yeah.
that's the first time you've seen Quill do something like that since he became a Guardian, or since he became an Avenger, essentially, which was like take advantage of somebody. So he kind of like felt like he had to do stuff to show off for this Gamora. And I feel like that whole scene, all of that whole thing was literally to push their relationship in your face, to kind of like show you that he had to make a different version of the woman that fell in love with him fall in love with him again in almost the same exact way, which was, I thought, was kind of clever.
Yeah, I like the that was one of my things that I liked a lot was Star Lord and the Gamora relationship. Not relationship building, but like kind of dealing with it.
Both of them
Because
dealing with it, yeah.
yeah, and it didn't necessarily end happy for Peter, but like you
Mhm.
could see them both kind of emotionally grasp coming to terms with it, um, throughout the whole movie. And then obviously the way it ends when we get there, we'll talk about that a little bit. But you really kind of it feels very final, like okay,
Mhm.
they're not getting back together. Like that's
Yeah.
not happening. Not gonna end well. Um, and then so they leave this kind of organic facility thing, and that's when they figure out that the code that they got, or the data that they were looking for the code in, ends up
Mhm.
not being there. It got deleted. They're like, well, we can find out who deleted it, and it turns out to be, I can't remember his name. I'm gonna keep calling him Fat Asian Man. He reminds me of
Man in
Android.
the chair.
No, Android 16 from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, I was gonna say Man in the chair from Spider-Man. His friend Ned.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's a multiverse version of him.
But yeah, they find out that he has the code in his head, and he's bringing it to the High Evolutionary, which I don't think that they know who the High Evolutionary is yet, but they know that they have to get that file in his head before he gets back to whatever base he has to go to. Like I don't think that they know. I don't remember, but I don't think that they know at this point who is the person that's overseeing everything as of right now. I think they just know they have to follow this guy, and they start tracking him into Counter Earth.
I'm gonna show you this guy. This is what the character looks like. This is the dude that they gotta get the oh, maybe. They gotta get the code from this guy. Android 19. Tell me that's not him, bro.
That's
Literally.
that's fucked up.
That's literally him. That's literally him, bro.
I think it's the guy in the chair with a electronic disc reader on the side of his head.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
Android 19. I don't want to hear it.
yeah. But yeah, so like they start tracking him to Counter Earth. So then this is once again a scene happens, a big scene with the Guardians happen. They say they have to go to Counter Earth. Then this is like, I think this is one of the longest scenes of a flashback where they go through This is like a 25-minute
Yeah,
flashback
this is the High
where you
Evolutionary and
meet like the
Rocket.
High Evolutionary.
Yeah, and they're interacting with Rocket.
Mhm.
This is a good flashback. This is
This
where
is the
you
bulk of
learn
it.
the names of. Wait, is this where you learn the names
Yeah,
of
this is where
the?
so this is the first the way that this scene starts is it's Rocket writing on a chalkboard sitting in the High Evolutionary's lap. He
Yeah,
solves the
he's coming up with the
equation.
equations. Yep.
Yeah, he solves the equation and then he's like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And this is when Rocket says Sky and Rocket, and
Uh
that's
huh.
where he gets Rocket. And then he goes
Yep.
back
He goes back that
and
night, and they're all
and they go
talking
back
about
and
what their names are going to be.
he starts seeing them. Well, first he starts seeing them and he's kind of scared or whatever, and that's when he like starts talking. I think he started talking in the flashback prior to this, because this one is when he starts to meet all the friends.
Can we just say, real quick, we skipped over this. The first words Baby Rocket says, on screen are "hurts" and points to his fucking ripped open scalp where
I
his
know.
skull is exposed. He's like, "Hurts, bruh." What the fuck, bro?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to my heart?
Yeah, we actually we should have put this at the beginning of this episode. It should be PETA be warned. This is not the movie
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you.
PETA alert.
This
Spoiler
is
alert.
not the movie for you. There's some serious animal abusement going on, like abuse all over.
I saw somebody. I saw somebody said that
Oh no, here we go.
this is like one of Dr. Anthony Fauci's labs where they're doing gain
Oh
of
my
function
god.
research.
Oh my god. And it's in China, so there's no regulations. They can
Oh
do whatever they
no.
want.
I'm dead.
Oh, this is this is ridiculous. But yeah, so that this
Oh,
flashbacks starts you start to really see like the development of Rocket kind of turn into what he is
he
as
starts getting
in his
smart.
youth years. Yeah, you start to really see the intelligence start to form. He introduced you to his furry friends, his Build-A-Bear nightmare shops, which I don't care what
Bruh.
anyone
So
says.
we got Teefs, we got Lila.
And
What was the
Floor,
rabbit's name? Floor.
Floor.
Yo, my dog, Floor, bruh.
I don't care what anyone says. All of those creatures scared the fuck out of me. Everyone said that they looked cute. None of those things look cute. And you guys can put me on a stake. I would have shot that bunny immediately too. That thing was creepy as hell. It was on a little.
You know
It was
what
a
the bunny
spider bunny.
reminded
It
me of?
was a
Toy
spider bunny.
Story. The little baby
That
head
thing
on
looked like.
robot legs,
Could
spider
you
legs.
imagine if you? Could you imagine if you looked under your bed and you saw a metal spider bunny with red eyes? I would freak out. That's stuff. That's a
I'm
fuel.
literally
That's
giving
nightmare
that
fuel.
thing 3 lead injections in the chest.
That thing is nightmare fuel. But anyways, he
Apparently, High
comes like
Evolutionary agrees with you because
yeah, I guess so. But
I mean,
he
it's
makes friends with
sprayed the block down.
with these three Build-A-Bear outcasts, which are all modified, and which it's kind of fucked
Hey,
up because
Build a
there's no
Bear needs to
reason.
pick up the rights to this, by the way.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up because there's no reason why uh High Evolutionary had to rip off the otter's arms or rip off the seal's legs or rip
No.
off the bunny's feet, because all he was trying to do was form intelligence. So I don't
Yeah, well, you want to
understand.
know why he did that?
I don't know.
To
You
make
tell
me
me.
sad.
Yeah,
To
I
make
guess
me
so. They
sad.
wanted to make a
He
sad scene
literally wanted to make me fucking sad.
because basically what all he was trying to do was create, which once again it's kind of weird that he started using animals to create intelligence. I don't really understand that. I think so. No, let me back up. It wasn't just intelligence. It was the non-aggressiveness. So he was choosing breeds of animals that were not aggressive so that they wouldn't kill
Which is
each other in
hilarious
these
because
perfect
otters are one of
so he's trying to decide on like breeds that are not aggressive, so like when he creates these societies that they don't turn backwards and they all don't like turn on each other and start fighting each other. Like that's his thought process. But with that he wants intelligence. So during all these all these experiments, Rocket, they ask Rocket, like, I don't know why he shows Rocket what they're doing, but he shows them like they put a turtle in this chamber and it's just a regular turtle, and then they put whatever chemical they're using, whatever chemical he's using to
Yeah, what if
evolve
that's
these
the
this
Terrigen mist?
yeah, he's like evolving these creatures by like thousands of years and mere seconds in his eyes. But the turtle's aggressive. It's like it looks like it's a humanoid. It becomes super aggressive. Rocket
Literally a
says
Ninja
something.
Turtle.
Yeah, Rocket says something about the chamber and what they have to use as a filter, and
Mhm.
they change it and it works. But they don't show Rocket immediately that it works. They just ask him like, "Why do you think about that?" Stuff like that. Because you have to remember, the High Evolutionary thinks that he is the smartest person in the universe. He's like, there's no one above him, and anything he creates can't be better than him. So he thinks that he's like the peak of perfection in this instance. So the
Is what he
fact that
looks
this
like in the
animal,
comics.
yeah, the fact that this animal that he created has the ability to think about something that he's never been taught kind of catches him off guard. He doesn't really
And
understand why he would think about that, and starts to question what's really going on and how
yeah, now
smart
that we're
he
kind of
really
at
is.
this part where we're really talking about the High Evolutionary, I just want to make sure I get to this part. It cannot be understated how good of a job this actor does
So good.
playing him. And I'm gonna say I had texted you the night I saw this, right? And
Mhm.
this is probably a hot take here, but he is a better villain than Kang so far in the MCU.
They made him actually a villain. That's the
Yep.
difference. They made
Yep.
this guy unlikable. He was unlikable.
No redeeming qualities at all.
None.
Just like
It's a bad guy.
you
Just
know,
literally a bad guy.
just literally a bad guy. And this is the first, villain in a while where it's like, you know, the MCU recently has this thing where it's like all the villains have to be relatable or like we have to like the villain.
Understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, like Wanda, like her vibrator broke and she fucking steals some lady's kids. Like, no, that's not relatable to me. I'm sorry. Like, that's just not like I don't get it. You can't mind enslave an entire town because your vibrator broke. That's just
Yeah,
not how it works. I'm sorry.
because your love interest is gone.
So I'm sorry you had to fucking watch Thanos rip that raisin out of his forehead 2 times in a row.
That pop cereal.
Literally. That shit looks so tiny as his fingers. He's just book. Um but anyway, yeah, I really think it paid off, like them fully committing to a villain here. And it actually makes me like, I don't know the whole thing going on with Jonathan Majors. Like I know, what's
It's
happening to him,
it's
but
very
I don't
nerve-wracking to see what they're gonna actually decide to do.
yeah, I just don't know. Like he's got a court date coming up, and like it'll really depend on how that court hearing goes, I suppose. Like, what the MCU, what Kevin Feige and the higher ups at Marvel decide to do. But I really don't see a world here coming up in the future, like especially with our culture the way it currently is. I don't see a world where they keep Jonathan Majors as Kang right now. Um, and I think that they need to lean into, someone like this guy, High Evolutionary. Not saying he needs to be the main bad guy of, the next series, but like, use the lesson you learned from this movie villain wise and lean into it. Like, let's think about the first 2 times we've seen Kang on screen. The first 2 times we see him in the Loki series, he gets killed by female Loki very easily.
Mhm.
The second time, he gets his ass beat by ants. Um, Zero intimidation in either one of those movies. High Evolutionary, however, we see him fucking Peter Quill makes a joke about how he saw some cockroaches and an octopus making a drug deal, and he's like, "Fuck, man, you're right. Guess I got to blow up the planet. Fuck it.
Yeah. He
You're
just
right. Better start over."
blows
So
up Earth, counter Earth
yeah, he nukes an entire planet
with a billion people in it.
over a drug deal. um, so it's like, and also, hurting animals, like that's pretty,
It's pretty fucked
pretty bad,
up.
pretty fucked up. Um, but yeah, so he's just a bad dude, and I think they did a great job leaning into the a villain being an actual villain, and also the actor doing just a fantastic job. And I really hope they bring him back in some
He did a
form.
very good job, and they did they did a couple things with him that are different from the comic books, but some things are the same. And we'll get to that towards the end. But just going off of where they're at here, I mean, they finally get to Counter Earth after this big break scene where you see basically how evil of a dick this guy is. So now, well, once like now, like they land onto this planet. Rocket's literally on his last leg, like he's dying. So everyone's freaking out. But then they go into another long scene that I agree with Sean when we talked about this originally, which was just an unnecessary scene where it seems like they were just using it again because something bad happens, so they needed comic relief. So the
Yeah,
first thing
this
that
is probably the
happens
worst
is
scene of the movie for me. A lot of
it
bad
was
jokes.
pretty drawn out. The
Yeah.
funny thing was everyone saw it on the trailer, which they land onto this neighborhood. A little girl throws a or tosses a kickball at Drax, and he just destroys her right in the
Dude, he
face.
wrecks her shit, bro.
And then all of the people in the neighborhood start throwing shit at them left and right. And then Groot,
Lighting
which
them
once
up.
again, which is cool about this is that they really showed Groot's ability to evolve in this movie alone. Like the amount of
Yeah, he
times
goes
that
into that kaiju form is so
this
sick.
man changed. Like in this scene, he like grew himself massive to try and scare everyone away.
Hmm.
Um, but you didn't really see different variations of Groot throughout. Like when you saw the first movie, like you saw him do some cool stuff, but you didn't really see him change his form except for when he turned himself into a ball to save everybody. But he changed his form multiple times. You literally saw him evolve multiple times within this movie. He got his head chopped off at the beginning of the movie. Then he grew into like this buff version of himself, and then he turned into that big version of himself, and then he grows wings to save Peter later on. It's just a lot of cool stuff like with that character alone, which I think the reason why they did it is because a lot of these other characters are going to be gone. So he's going to have to kind of carry like the strength structure, like kind of be like the big guy, which he already was in a lot of their fights. Like he was the muscle, but now it's like how versatile he really is as a character, which they did a good job in this movie because he changed, I think, like 5 or 6 times, which is cool. But they show up to that neighborhood, they get into this altercation with the neighbors. They go up to a neighbor, they let her in because like Peter Quill, like she fell and Peter Quill tried to help her up, then she brought him to her home. And this is where this like long scene,
Yeah, it's just
it's like a
so drawn
5 minute
out.
scene of them in this house trying to understand each other. No one understands each other at all. It's just like this bat lady and this bat dad, and like they just go over like the living room and like show like all the bat family pictures and stuff. It's just very strange. No real significance to this scene except for the fact that they get a car and they know where to go. But if they looked outside, they could have saw that there's a big red pyramid sticking out of the ground. They could
Hmm.
have just put
That
two
and
and
that
two together.
honestly, that whole scene felt like in any other movie, like old school like DVDs and shit like that, when you'd watch like deleted scenes,
Fast
like the
forward.
delete, yeah, like the deleted scenes, yeah, the deleted scenes reel, like that felt like something you would see on like a deleted scenes reel.
Yes, I
The
agree.
only
And
the only cool part that comes here is we get I think the first F bomb of the
yeah, that's
MCU.
when they're in the car. I mean, if you don't count Deadpool as part, I mean, they're part of the MCU, but they're not MCU movies yet. But yes,
Yeah.
this would be the first one where like they're messing with the car and like she's trying to learn how to unlock the
And
car.
yeah, and they use it in a very funny
I was
way. And
surprised. It caught me off guard.
they made a trailer out of it actually. So
Did
I had
they? I
seen
didn't see
that.
this one. Oh, I didn't see this one.
It was like very close to when they released the movie. So it wasn't like, you know what I mean? It was like right before they released the movie. It was like a
I didn't see
Facebook.
it.
It was like a Facebook ad, and they bleep it out in the ad.
I will say, now that I think about it, I think that didn't do the best job of advertising this movie because I didn't really even know that it was coming out this weekend, to be honest.
I I don't know that they did
I
a
don't
bad
really think
job, but
I don't think I really saw too many like usually when there's a movie coming out, they push it down everyone's throat.
I feel like Captain Marvel is being
That
uh
one's a hush hush because they don't want anyone to go see that. They're actually ashamed of it.
dude,
They're like,
I s-
please, they're like, please, for love of God, don't come see it. We just have
I
to put it out
promise you,
there.
Harry, I was in a full theater for Guardians. The only seats that weren't taken were the very front rows, and there were some people down there, and you could hear people talking when like a good trailer would come on, and fucking the Marvels trailer comes on, and it was like fucking deathly quiet.
Yeah, that
No
shit
one said
looks
anything.
shit looks
Savannah, my
terrible.
wife, she leans over to me and she goes, "That's gonna fucking suck." I'm like,
Uh,
"Yeah, it is."
That's great.
Um,
Um, yeah, I was not impressed with that trailer. That's actually the first trailer I saw of that movie when I was in the movie, same as you.
yeah.
And it was just not impressive. I mean, the only thing that's gonna be good about that movie, which is gonna be the spy part of it, which is gonna be like all the espionage of them trying to understand why the scrolls are trying to
Let's be
get like
Harry. Don't come on.
it's
Let's
not gonna
not
be
beat around the
good, but
bush. Let's not beat around the
it's
bush. The
gonna
best part
suck.
of that, the best part of that movie is going to be Brie Larson anytime she's in a low cut shirt. Okay, stop fucking playing with me.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that I'm not gonna knock it yet because when I watch Captain Marvel, it's definitely not the best movie, but it's also not like it's not as bad as what we portray it to be either. I think there are a lot of good
No,
parts
I
in
think
it.
Captain Marvel's very shit.
It's bad, but there's
And we
parts in
can't
it
get
that are
too
good.
far off track from
Yeah. Okay.
because I
Okay.
will literally talk about how shit Captain Marvel is
Okay.
forever.
Out of Captain Marvel. So we find out. So we're in the car. F bomb blows up. They go back and forth. It's a classic. It's unlocked. Open it. It's not unlocked. Open
Oh,
it. It's
this
unlocked. Open
next
it.
scene that's coming up is so fucking sick when they get
Yeah.
to the place. Keep going.
So they open. She opens up. She's like, I press the button. She keeps pressing the keyhole over and over and over again. Like it's come on. Like you're intergalactic war criminal. Like you can figure out what the button is. Like if you can fly a spaceship, I'm pretty sure it's pretty simple to open that door. Anyways, Peter Quill says, "Open the fucking door," and then she opens it, and
Chris
the whole
Pratt improvised that line they said too,
yeah,
which is hilarious.
he had to have. And I think this is like one of those scenes, like when we were talking about this like last drawn out scene of like the living room and stuff. I think
Yeah.
this is because this is James Gunn's last movie. I think the whole thought process was there's going to be nothing that gets cut. It's going to be straight
Oh,
director's
I
cut.
agree.
That's what we release. Every scene that I film and that I want to be in is going to be in, and that's kind of final. And I think that's kind
Hmm.
of where they went because, like Sean alluded to before, a lot of these scenes were drawn out, didn't need to be in there because the movie was, I think it was like what 2.5 hours. It was
It was
long.
2.5 hours, and
I didn't
that's
realize.
the first word I used to describe this movie to Savannah when we were on our way out. She goes, "What did you think?" I go, "I thought it was very self-indulgent."
Mhm.
James Gunn put anything and everything he wanted in
Yeah,
this movie.
he wanted pop culture. He wanted references. He wanted his style, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's not that it's bad. It's just
I don't think it
you
made
could
it a
tell.
bad movie, you know what I mean? And
No,
we'll give our
it's
scores at the
just
end here,
yeah,
but it
it's just one of
definitely
those things. You could
affected.
tell. It
Yeah,
was
it
very
definitely affected the
noticeable.
opinion of the movie for sure.
Mhm.
Like this movie could have been 2 hours easily, and which
Yeah,
is much more reasonable than 2.5.
right. Um, so now we're in the car. Drax, Mantis, Gamora stay with Rocket, and now it's Groot,
Groot and
Nebula,
Peter.
and Peter, and they go to the pyramid, which is where the evolutionary is. Nebula has to stay at the car because she has the most
She has a
broken
fucking
weapon.
arm cannon.
Yeah, Rocket is superior to everybody. The fact that he built that, it's literally the best piece of equipment that any hero has right now. And Rocket built it and out of scrap parts, I'm assuming. So Rocket's just that
Shit
smart.
that he stole from people.
Yeah. So they go into this scene, which is this scene's very cool because they scan Peter, they take away his weapon. They tell Nebula she can't be there. because she is a weapon. And then they scan Groot, and it's just like, yeah, he's just a fucking tree. So they go into this place. They
this is
finally
probably my favorite scene in the movie.
there's a couple of parts in the scene that I was very happy with. The first thing is Peter comes in hot, and he's just like, where the hell is the code for my friend? He's like yelling at like scientists that are in the room, like random people, and I don't think he even realizes that the high evolutionary is like in a corner, like high evolutionary is like in a corner at a desk, and I don't think he didn't even look his way yet, and he's just literally going after the first person because he sees the guy in the chair with the
Android
disc reader on
19,
his
yeah.
head. Yeah, Ned with the disc reader in his head, and he just goes after him. He's like, I know that you erased the file. I need the file, blah, blah, blah. And then in the middle of him like screaming at this guy, the high evolutionary just like starts speaking. Like, why are you so angry? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, kind of being like condescending in a way because he's like, I'm better than you. Like, there's no reason for you to come in here like this, blah, blah, blah. So he walks down, he starts going after them, he starts talking about the perfect world and everything. And um, Peter Quill talks about the fact that he saw a guy with an octopus head sell meth to or a bunch of kids that had cockroach heads, and like they go back and forth, and then the high evolutionary starts to explain like why he's doing what he's doing. And Peter Quill did one of my favorite things, which was he basically told him, he said, I don't care about whatever piss poor excuse you have that all villains have to try and take over and conquer the world, and give me your reasoning and why you're doing it. He's like, you guys are all just power hungry dickheads essentially. And he just
Yeah.
like put him in his place immediately. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's so awesome. He like
My
not
favorite
like
part about
almost
that is when fucking what's his face, the high evolutionary is like, yeah, your Earth would have been perfect if it wasn't for all the bigotry. And the camera goes to Star Lord, and he's fucking rolling his eyes. It's like,
yes.
oh my god.
It's almost like they broke a fourth wall without doing it, because he basically called out like what all these villains in the MCU have done in every single movie, which is basically like, I'm doing this because of this, like trying, like what Sean alluded to before, trying to be relatable. Like, this
Yeah,
is why you don't understand. This is why I'm doing it, because you guys can't help yourselves, because you guys kill each other, because you guys don't know any better. I'm doing this for you, instead of it just being like basically what Peter said, which is what I wish someone would have said to Kang too, which was like, don't give us a bullshit story of why you're power hungry and just want to control the world. Like, that's what you're doing. Just own it. We was like, we don't have a problem with it. We're gonna try and stop you, but just own what you're doing. Stop being a little bitch about it. Just say
yeah,
that you want to kill people and you're power hungry. That's all you gotta do. Don't try and hide from yourself of what you're actually doing and try and portray something else. So I thought that scene was awesome. Like, and it's
yeah,
not even an action scene yet, which gets even better. So
yeah.
you can tell your action
Also,
scenes. I know
really
you're
funny
excited for
that they
this.
kept calling it a face off when
Yeah, because he
the
doesn't have a
dude's face
face.
is all fucking
Yeah,
stretched out.
yeah. He called him RoboCop, because from the 80s film
Yo, when he
RoboCop
called him fucking
literally
RoboCop,
had the same thing where it's like his face was like over a robot's head. He called him Purple Nurple. He called
dude,
him
when he called him fucking RoboCop, I literally
I
died.
lost it. He called him something. It would have been awesome if he called him um uh what's the guy from the Chainsaw Massacre? What's his face? What's
Oh,
his
leather.
name? Leatherface. So if you would have called him Leatherface or Ed Gein,
Yeah,
I would have
shit,
died.
dude. If we were calling him Ed Gein,
It'd have been
holy
the best
shit,
insult ever.
dude.
But
That,
then we lead into
he's fucking
Sean's
wearing a nipple belt.
favorite part of this. Yeah, literally. Well, he probably was. You never know. They never showed his waist.
Oh, dead.
But then then they lead into the standoff
The,
face off,
the
where it's not a trap,
uh-huh.
it's a standoff. And then Peter starts getting pissed again, which is cool because you don't really like, I mean, you see Peter lose his chill a lot, but you never see them violent, I guess. But like in this movie, every single one of them were extremely violent, which was kind of a cool pace, like a change of pace, because I don't really think, besides Infinity War, I can't really think of another movie where they actively show heroes killing other beings. In this movie, they show it all, like not just beings but people too.
Yeah,
And
when
in this movie, they do. In Endgame or in Infinity War, they do, because they show like the battle scene, like they're killing the alien race and stuff,
mhm.
but they're not like humanoid, I guess. But in
Well, they always
Infinity
give you
and
like
Endgame,
it's
they
just like
do.
the same principle as Star Wars, right? They give you these kind of like faceless enemies for your hero to kill that
Mhm.
like mean nothing to you. They're faceless enemies, so it's just like, it's
It's not
whatever. It
like
doesn't have
murder.
any
Yeah,
emotional bearing, you know.
it's just beating somebody.
It's just a drone. And the same principle for Infinity War when they had all those like drone, bug like creatures
Mhm.
running through the shield at Wakanda. I mean, they're just like bug things, so it's like doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um,
But in
when
this
it's a
movie,
person,
they
when it's like a individual
Mhm.
person, like at the end of the scene where fucking Peter kills that Android 19 guy. He
Yeah,
literally kills him. He
well, it's
throws him
not
out a
just
window and
yeah.
drags him through fucking water
Well, before
from
that
a
scene, let's get to the cool part
the best
where
part. Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
when they first walked in, they all got scanned. Groot got
Yeah, they're
scanned as a
not supposed
fucking
to have any
tree.
weapons on them.
Groot got scanned as a fucking tree. They show
Uh-huh.
up, and then Groot, and then they kept going back and forth, back and forth. Peter Quill says like feels like they're not getting any information. His friend's dying. He's like, "F this, we're doing this. It's our turn. It's a face off," and and freaking Groot just opens up his whole body and has an arsenal of weapons, and he
My
just is
man
pointing
starts
like 8
fucking
different directions
capping
and
fools.
just turns into an android of death. And he's just like boom boom boom, and then he has like Peter Quill's weapons like curled up in his back, and Peter just rips those things, and they're just going straight at it like
Bruh,
Mr. and
that
Mrs.
scene
Smith
where they're
style.
like,
Mr. and
with
Mrs.
their
Smith style, back to back, like
oh my
goo goo
god,
goo goo goo,
dude, that
and they're
shit
just
was
killing. They're killing
insane.
everybody. It's
Dude,
literally
innocent
it's a
scientists,
John
not
Wick
even
movie.
military people.
It's a John Wick
Not
movie.
even
They're scientists.
yeah, literal fucking scientists.
It's a John Wick movie. They're going boom boom boom, and then
Dude,
like he said, they threw a bomb too. They threw a bomb or whatever. And because essentially what happened is they started like they had that interaction, and then he was like, all right, cool, yeah, I agree, this planet needs to be eradicated. They start lifting up, and they realize that this pyramid is a ship, and it starts lifting up and starts dropping bombs. So that's when they're like, all right, fuck this, and they pulled out all their weapons and started going crazy.
oh,
But they threw
let's
an
not forget
explosive.
Warlock's fucking mom dies here.
Yeah, with
Not that it matters. As
yeah,
you can
not that
tell,
it
we've
matters.
talked about Adam Warlock one time. Um, he has no impact on this movie.
It was just them introducing, because he is a huge part of Guardians of the Galaxy, but he's a cosmic being, so he's a lot more important than what they made him, which was kind of weird. But we'll get to that
If you
during our
know anything
dislikes.
about if you know anything about Adam Warlock from the comics, you're gonna be very disappointed with his portrayal in this movie. I think I was very disappointed with the portrayal in this movie.
It was very
If
different.
you don't know anything about Adam Warlock, you might not give a shit. I still think that from a objective, standpoint, that character was wasted. Like, regardless if I know anything about him or not, I think that it was just a wasted. He was just comedic relief, and it's like you don't need another character for comedic relief. You have fucking Drax, Groot, Mantis, Quill. They all do shit that's comedic relief. Even Nebula said some funny shit. Um,
Yeah,
so I don't think it was needed.
I mean, I'll get to my thoughts on that after. Let's finish the
Get
movie real quick, and then we'll go
yeah
into
yeah yeah
everything.
yeah
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
we so they there's like an explosion that happens, whatever. You kind of see in glimpses how strong the high evolutionary is. Like one when they showed like the whole like what I talked about before, when you talk about in other episodes, when I say the portrayal of when they put a character on film for the first time that viewers see, everything is relevant to whatever they do. So their power level is scaled, whether Marvel thinks this or not. As a fan and as a nerd, you should think this with anything, with anime, with TV shows, anything. When a character is introduced and they show what their power level is, that's kind of what they are comparable to in the future, because this is all we know at this time. So they show Adam Warlock fly in at the beginning of the movie, kind of take out all the Guardians one by one, and only get hurt by like a sucker shot essentially from Nebula. But he was blowing this place up. He was super strong, super durable. Was shooting cosmic beams out of his hands, all kinds of stuff. Able to fly in space, not affected by the elements, nothing. When you first see a High Evolutionary talk about how he failed him, High Evolutionary wrecks his shit. Like he throws him into a wall and is crunching him, and he's screaming like he's dying. Essentially, like that's how much pressure High Evolutionary is putting on. And this is all from the technology that's in his body that he created. Like he turned
he's using
himself
a
into a
suit.
cyborg. Yeah, well, he turned himself into like a cyborg, and all that technology. It's a very similar situation to
Kind of like
Kang,
Kang.
but
Yeah.
Kang is more like his suit is his power, where High Evolutionary is he's modifying his own body. Like he's turning himself kind of like what he's doing to Rocket. He's doing it to himself to make himself better. So it's a little bit different, but it's very similar. But you can see like the power, like it all comes from his body, and like you see it go through like his back and his spinal cord and stuff when he's using his power. So that's cool. But anyways, they use Adam Warlock to show how strong he was, and then the next like couple scenes they use the High Evolutionary to show I'm that much stronger than this guy. And that's kind of like when you have that analogy of where you place him on a power scale level, is they show a very strong character. The next couple scenes, this character's stronger because I defeat him with ease. Like he's nothing to me. He can't compare to me. I told his mom that I only created his race because I was bored, and I will literally take out their whole planet I'll kill their whole race, make them go extinct unless they capture Rocket. And that's kind of when you start to realize what kind of power scale level he is. And they make him a Thanos level threat at that point. He's a destroyer of worlds. He creates a society, deems it not perfect, destroys it, starts over. It's kind of what Thanos was starting out as. So they kind of made that power level for him. So in that scene when they're in the ship launches up, the planet starts blowing up. They realize what's going on. They throw an explosive at High Evolutionary. It just takes away like parts of the ship, and it kind of like goes down. They're blowing everyone up, boom boom, they're going crazy in there. High Evolutionary just like kind of bored, and he just like moves all of this like 1,000 pounds of ship material, just moving it back and forth. And before he can get to Peter and Groot, they literally just jump out the window, and he just thinks that they're just like the dumbest people of all time. Is like,
Yeah.
well, like I could have killed them and made it easier, but they just jumped to their death. That's how stupid and imperfect they are. Like, and that's kind of what his thought process is. And then they just fly away. Meanwhile, Drax, Nebula, and Mantis think that Peter Quill and Groot are stuck on this craft and captured by High Evolutionary, and they get stuck in the ship. So it's like they do this big switcheroo. So
Yeah.
they're locked on this ship, and then they finally get Rocket because Gamora has him. They get the information they need from, because as Sean said to earlier, Peter Quill literally murders Ned in the chair with a disc on his head by ripping this disc out of his head and drowning him on screen, which was kind of
Kind of
gloomy. It was
brutal.
kind of yeah, it was kind of like, well, it's kind of weird. It doesn't seem like, but once again, it's his best friend. He's dying. He knows that he only has so much time, and he already has a vendetta against this Asian guy for some reason. I don't know why, but he does not like this guy. He could have just asked him, like, "Hey,
It's
it's
because
just
he
me and
made
you
him
now."
waste an entire section of the fucking movie.
Yeah, I guess so. So they get the information. They finally unlock Rocket, and they get the kill switch off. Rocket's first words are,
Don't forget about the
"Where's
fucking platform 9 3/4 scene where he goes and sees Lila.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did you not think of that? That's what I thought of. Fucking Deathly Hollows Part 2 when Harry Potter dies
Yeah,
and goes and
it was
talks with
very
Gandalf.
yeah, it was a very strange scene where it was very, once again, it was another very dramatic scene that wasn't necessary, but they put it into it. Like I didn't think that scene was necessary. It was just kind of
Dude,
like
Peter
time
Quill's
in between
acting
of him
there
getting.
though was fantastic when he thought
Yeah,
he was gonna die. Like he
no,
was
like
doing
no, I
such a
mean
good job.
that part's fine. I'm talking about the platform 9 3/4 scene, like the Matrix
Oh yeah,
scene,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Deathly
yeah,
Hollow scene. That
yeah,
scene
yeah,
is
yeah.
unnecessary. They don't need that. Like they can just have him go flatline and then just come
And then
back.
come
And
back.
like
Yeah.
yeah, they don't need to go into Rocket's
Hmm.
subconscious and do all this. But anyways, like
Yeah.
like he said, they go into like his subconscious. He sees Lila,
He
which
sees the
is
cellmates, Lila,
yeah.
Teefs, and Floor.
And I think the last scene that you saw, so you already see them die. So I think we kind
Yeah.
of skipped over that. But in the scene where
Yeah, they all die, by the way.
he gets pissed off, he like the high evolutionary gets pissed off that Rocket's so smart. So
Yep.
he literally gets so upset that Rocket was able to figure out what he couldn't, and that now he wants Rocket's brain. And that's what this all comes down to. This kind of sets the scene for the rest of the movie of really why he's going after him for his brain. They never really say, but it's because Rocket's brain is so much more advanced than what he thought it was, and he wants to know why. Why is this raccoon? Why is he so much more advanced than every other thing that I've created? Why is he smarter than me? Why is he smarter than this? Because he knew what to do without even knowing what the functionality was essentially,
And I
and
think the
they do
term
it.
obsessed gets used later on in the movie by
Mhm.
one of his people,
Yeah, one of his like
one of
co-scientists.
the
Yeah, the one
friends
that
or
yeah
whatever
that tries to take him
call
over.
tell him he's obsessed,
Mhm.
and that is the correct term to use for sure.
Yeah,
Man,
I would
looks
say I would
you're
definitely
obsessed.
say so. Absolutely, vendetta almost like the
Yeah,
one that got away in a way. But
yeah, he
so
was.
high evolutionary pissed off. He sentences them to surgery and death the next day. And at this point, Rocket is just on another level. Is like, all right, we're getting out of here. You see him like he's been collecting parts throughout every time he's been taken out of the
I thought that
cage.
was kind of cool.
He's
How
That
like
was very
he's
cool. It was
always
very
stolen shit.
MacGyver. Yeah, he was always taking stuff and bringing them into his cage and hiding them
Yeah,
under all of his like hay pieces and stuff.
and now we
He
know why he
finds out he's
always
gonna
steals
die.
batteries.
Yeah, now you know why he's always in looking out for scraps. It's because he can always build something to get away. But he puts a little thing together. You see him take all these stuff in his cage. Boom, 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 boom. Creates a key. Unlocks. They're all out. Then you see the infamous scene of him killing Lila, killing Teeths, and then killing the rabbit. Which no, he actually only kills Lila. Then he jumps on the high evolutionary's face, rips that shit up, rightfully so, and then his like security comes and was shooting at Rocket, and they missed him, and they hit Teeths
Yeah,
and Floor, which is
yeah.
kind of weird because Floor is super fast, and she's super small, so the fact that she caught a stray bullet, whatever. Villains never can shoot guns. I mean, you've seen Star Wars, but these ones have perfect shots to shoot the smallest animals in the
Look,
thing.
I ain't even gonna lie. This is the scene I cried.
It was
That's
a
the
very
scene.
emotional scene. That
That's
is
the
for
scene I
sure.
cried when the fucking boys died,
The teammates went down.
dude. When
The Furtastic Four.
when the fucking squad
TM. The
went down,
Furtastic Four. TM.
dude.
Trademarked.
Don't you're gonna get the furry community in a fucking uproar.
I don't care. I'm posting tomorrow the Furtastic Four, and I'm gonna put a picture of all four of them together
Great, we're
and
gonna
say,
have
if
a
you know,
bunch of
you know.
people. We're gonna attract a bunch of My Little Pony fans now.
It's
Jesus
gonna say
Christ.
Furtastic Four. All four of the pictures. I'm gonna have a little logo of PETA in the top right with a big heart.
Anyway, we're trying to make this thing an hour. We're at an hour and 15. This is our life.
The story of us.
We'll just
Um,
get straight to the ending.
yeah, you
So
skip
basically,
the
they
ending.
skip the ending.
No, I was just saying skip to
Oh,
the ending. Go,
skip to
yeah,
the
go.
ending. Oh,
Yeah.
so the high evolutionary basically sends him the coordinates. He sends drops a pin for Quill. Says square up, homie.
Mhm.
Um, so they go square up. They run up in there, and I think the notable scenes here, and the reason they have to go back is because Nebula, Drax, and
And Mantis.
Mantis are stuck on his ship. So they got Rocket back, but they lost the other half of their squad now. So they got to go back to get them. So They go back. They use the Ravagers. They turn the head of the dead Celestial into like a pirate ship, which is like
Mhm.
so fucking cool. And
So cool.
they board the High Evolutionaries ship, and you know, really the most notable shit that happens here is that the hallway fight scene. Um, that's like the climactic,
So gas. And
it's
this
like
is what
the
I was talking about, the
climactic scene of the
violence.
whole movie.
This
Oh
is where
my
they show
god.
the heroes. This is where they show like actual Avenger heroes killing, like
Groot takes his
murdering
arm
people.
and shoves it into a dude's throat, like into his mouth, and grows the roots throughout the rest of his body.
Explodes his body.
This man had roots coming out of his anal cavity, bruh.
Mhm.
Like,
And you see Drax just going full Hulk mode and like and this is another thing that's cool about this movie is that they actually let Drax be Drax the Destroyer, which is someone that's strong. Like he's not just a brunt of jokes. Like he's super strong. He's a battlist. Like he is a warrior. Like he's super strength. He's there to distribute, and he's just
hey, he's a
throwing people on
badass.
walls. He threw people on walls and was throwing knives and sticking them into the wall. Like he had one where this guy was he threw him up and he threw a knife and stuck him to a wall and then took this like thing out of someone and then threw it into one of the animals, like one of the like mutant animals, and stuck that thing to the wall. So he pinned two things to the wall in a matter of 2 seconds, killed two people.
They all had a cool scene in that
All of them,
hallway
yeah.
scene.
They all had an
They all
individual
had it.
1v1 that you got to see, which was very cool.
Yeah, and those are the things I don't mind dwelling on. You know what I mean? If you want to be self indulgent, that's the kind of
Yeah, if
thing
you
to be
want to have a
self
long
indulgent.
scene, show a long fight scene. Like I'd much rather see like kind of like that scene where it was like a 300 scene almost where they showed
Yeah,
each individual person in their place during that
in their
battle, which was their
skirmish.
POV. Yeah, which
Yeah,
was very cool. That was a
it
very
was
well
very
shot
cool.
scene.
So they kind of go through this hallway, and they had to go through this hallway to get to the High Evolutionary, right? Because the whole thing, Rocket's whole thing is like, I'm not running anymore, you know. So he's
Facing
going.
facing his facing his demons.
Yeah, and on this ship, we forgot to mention they find a bunch of little kids that are getting experimented on. Obviously, the animals are still there getting experimented on. So, the whole thing, the Guardians are like, we're gonna rescue these people. We're gonna first of
Mhm.
all, we're gonna get all the kids and put them on our, in our base. And as they're doing that, they're getting all these people there. Oh, let's not forget about our dog, Cosmo. Uh,
Cosmo is the best.
Cosmo's lit,
Holding it down, literally
literally.
holding both ships together the whole time.
So the whole reason they can even dock is because of Cosmo. Cosmo docks the two ships together. That way, all the kids can run through this little shield thing and get onto the Guardians' new base, right? Well, Rocket is like clearing out the base, and he's looking for more people to save, and he just happens to walk by a uh, a little room, and he looks over, and it's got cages in it, and he walks in, and it's a whole bunch of the animals that are there, just like he used to be. In the first cage he sees are a bunch of little raccoons, and it's a running joke throughout the Guardians series when people call him a raccoon. He goes, "I'm not a raccoon." Uh,
Mhm.
well,
I don't
he
even know what
found
a
out.
raccoon is. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he found out in this movie that he is actually a raccoon because he finds a whole cage of a bunch of little hymns, and he looks at the sign uh, that's posted on the cage, and it says, the all the information about them, and at the bottom it says common name raccoon.
Yeah.
And you can see he's absolutely fucking triggered.
100%.
But he goes to rescue all these little raccoons and all the other animals, and cool thing, he uses the same tool he used to free himself.
Yeah, he kept it
um
this whole time. Like he knew he was always going to come back and
yep.
swipe and free all the other animals, which is very
Mhm.
cool.
And this is where the High Evolutionary catches him slipping, uses his gravity powered suit to fuck him up.
Mhm.
Um, and at the very beginning of the movie, this is kind of the payoff for that. At the very beginning of the movie, he was testing out these gravity boots,
Yeah.
Um, and so High Evolutionary's fucking him up. He's got him pinned up against the ceiling, and then Rocket Raccoon uses his gravity boots that he was testing out to slam himself back down on the floor, and he starts fucking him up. And then the rest of the Guardians show up and like
Start
fucking pinball his ass,
combo videoing him in the air, just
dude.
juggling him like a soccer
Combo
ball.
breaker.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, yeah, they fucked his ass up. That was a really cool scene too, because it showed like all the teamwork,
Mm-hmm.
from the Guardians, like how they can work together. And then they at the very end of this fight scene, Gamora peels this motherfucker's face off,
Yep.
and he Harvey Dent looking motherfucker.
Yeah, and this is
Uh,
this is because of what Rocket did to him when he killed Lila. Like he
it's
ripped
pretty
his face up
gruesome.
like that.
It's pretty gruesome. And they're like, we should kill him, and Rocket's like, nah, and they're like, why? And he's like, because I'm a guardian of the freaking galaxy.
Yeah, basically
And
saying like next we just killed all those people back there, but this is where we don't cross the line.
yeah, this is where
We killed all of his henchmen that had nothing, that are just following orders. But the guy
yeah,
that's making those orders, nah, he's cool. Like we're not
nah,
gonna do. We're not
we
gonna
gonna leave this
cross
one alive. We need him for a future movie.
Which, oh, by the way, during that hallway scene, let's not take away from Mantis doing all these kung fu jumping up kicks and blowing, like throwing people across
Oh
the
yeah,
hallway with her legs.
I don't know
She
where
was
she learned to
drop
just
kicking
randomly
people left
fight.
and right. When did she learn how to fight like that?
No
What
clue,
was
dude.
that?
No
She was
clue.
jumping on people and throwing them all over. That was funny. I was like, I did not expect that
She
at all.
fucking she popped a fucking senzu bean. I don't know what the
I
fuck is going
know.
on here.
I know.
But anyway, yeah. So they don't kill him. Thank God they don't kill the
Yeah, they
villain.
actually save themselves in this instance, depending on what happens to Jonathan Majors. They have this as open because they didn't show him die. They showed a ship blow up, but it doesn't mean
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. If you don't see a body, it didn't happen.
Same thing with Wanda. Like you didn't like the
We didn't see the
temple
body.
collapse, but you have not seen the body. She's still alive. They
Probably
do that
so.
on purpose, where it's an open ending to the point where it's endless possibilities. Like if they really want to bring that character back, it's like a writer's loop where they give themselves the ability that if they need to, they can always readdress that option.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, so anyway, they go back home. Um, you know, it's kind of a happy ending. Everybody lives. One of the things I didn't like about this movie were all the death fake outs. We'll go over that in a little more detail here in a second when we get to our kind of general assessment. Um, this is where they're all together, and they kind of say now Rocket is going to lead the Guardians, and they all salute him. Peter says he's going to go off to Earth, or he doesn't tell him where he's going to go. I don't think he just says I'm going to go, take some time to do some shit for me. Mantis says the same shit. She's going to take some time. Drax tries to go with her, and she's like, "No, this is a me only thing." And then I think Nebula says one of the cooler things in the movie. She says, "No, I need you here with me." And they have all these kids there now. She's like, "I need you here with me." She's like, "I think I finally know what you're good at. You're not a destroyer. You're a dad."
Mhm.
Because in one of the scenes, he does a lot of dad like stuff with the kids that were imprisoned and
Trapped.
stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, so anyway, that's kind of how the movie ends. There's a big dance party, and the Guardians have essentially split up. The Guardians that we know, at least, have essentially split up. The movie ends with a post-credit scene showing us essentially the new Guardian Squad, the current Guardian Squad, which is Rocket, Groot, um, uh, I can't remember his name, James Gunn's brother, that uses the Mohawk whistle thing. What's his name?
I don't remember his name. Like Yondu's friend. I forgot his name.
Yeah, Yondu's friend. Is James Gunn's brother, IRL. So that's how I know him. That's how you know he's a shit character. It's like nobody knows his name. Um, it's and then some random little girl that came from the ship that
And
they
Adam Warlock.
found on. Was Adam Warlock in that post credit scene with them? Oh
Hmm.
yeah, Adam
He was
Warlock
sitting on a
was in.
rock with them. Yep.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Yep. So that's the new Guardian squad right now, which, in my humble opinion, is very disappointing.
Yeah, so this is when I was talking to Sean. So I know that he told me that his saddest scenes were like the scenes with Lila and the four furry friends because he's a furry. Um I'm not gonna lie, like that those scenes were sad. They didn't really get me. Like they were just I was just kind of like in the movie, like just wanted to know what was happening. What really got me during this movie, which was like I think this was the first time it really hit me of like kind of our age and kind of like where we are in a nostalgic way of all the heroes that we've known that have started and grown throughout the MCU. They're all starting to leave, and I think that that kind of hit me in this movie, like seeing Chris Pratt go, seeing Gamora go, seeing Nebula go, seeing um, Batista go as Drax, like all these characters, and it's not just this movie; it's all these movies. All these movies are like the last time that you're probably going to see these characters, despite like maybe some cameos here and there. But you're never going to really see them in a full length movie anymore. And I feel like that really hit me, and I was kind of I was kind of like in my feelings after that because over the last 2 decades, like we've kind of been spoiled. Like we've gotten 1 to 2 movies every single year. We've got a lot of stuff to
For
look
the most
forward
part, the
to.
same actors playing the same
Yeah, the
characters.
same characters, all these, and like in these big movies, all these big buildups, it's always been what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Well, it turns out like these people have been playing these characters for 10 plus years and they just can't keep up with the the requirements to play these characters, whether it's physicality, whether it's time, whether it's schedule, whatever it is. Everyone has their different reasons, but it kind of really hit me on this one where there's never going to be another Guardians movie again. Like there's never going to be a solo Guardians movie. This is the last Guardians solo movie we're going to see. I don't think you're ever going to see
Possible.
a Guardians movie ever again. And that kind of got me. It was a weird thought. Like I'm approaching my 30s too, so it's around the corner. So that kind of hit me too. Like it all kind of hit at the same time, like almost as if my childhood was literally just gone. Like this, like as if my youth was just over at the end of this movie. And that kind of upset me because then you see what the new age is. Like I saw what the
Yeah.
new Guardians are supposed to be. And
The
it's just not
future
the
is now
same.
old man.
It's not the same. Like, I mean, if I was a younger person, like if I was and I didn't have as much investment into it, I would probably think that it's really cool. Like, oh, sweet, we have new characters to explore. Like, that's a good thing. There's
No,
no
that
the
shit's fucking dumb.
change is not usually a bad thing, but in this, because we're angry old men, it is for me. Like
It's shit. It's shit. We're not just angry
it's a
old men. It's
big
shit.
it's a big deal breaker for me. And as these characters start to be weaned out across the board, I think like it's going to be harder and harder for me to be head on with some of these movies. But we'll see. Like I'm always going to go watch it. Like I'm always going to give everything the benefit of the doubt. But this was a big wake up call for me as far as
Yeah.
where Marvel's actually heading.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I would say that that was one of the biggest takes I had walking away from it. I thought that it was very good. I thought that they did a very good job of character development in it, despite of one character, which would be Adam Warlock. I think that they lacked relatability for him. I think that they lacked the building of his character, his origins, his abilities, his everything. Because he's a very complex character to be just put onto the screen and just copy and paste. And like this is a new hero, here it is, which has kind of been what um, the new like quote like status quo is for Marvel, where they just introduce a character and don't really say anything about him, and then rely on other movies to build that character. But this is a weird one because he kind of is an important character, and I don't know where they're gonna build him. Like, are they gonna have cuts? Because there's a lot of characters that have this issue right now in the MCU that have been
Yeah.
introduced that don't really have a backstory, but are important and they're powerful, but they're just
And they've
there.
done nothing
And
with them.
Right. And unless they're
Yep.
planning on doing solo movies, which I doubt that they are, it's going to be a big issue when it comes to putting all
I
these characters into a movie,
I
which they're going
think
to have
they
to.
I think they misjudged. Like I think they overestimated how much Marvel content people would just fucking eat up. You know
Oh,
what I'm
I think
saying?
so too. I
Like
agree.
they just misjudged that. I think they got really ballsy when they did Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody knew who they were. The movie came out and it did really well, and everybody loved the Guardians. So they're like,
Hmm.
"Oh, we can just be successful with any property now."
Yeah, anything
Well,
that's
if
Marvel is going to sell no matter
yeah,
what.
well, if you watch the Eternals, you should know that that's not the case.
It's
The
not good, but it's
Eternals,
still it's still sold. Like people still went and watched it, and I think
I mean, they went and
that's an
watched it, but
issue.
that movie lost money.
Oh, that movie
That
was
movie
bad.
that movie lost money for them. 100% lost money. Um anyway, let's I'm going to briefly go over really quick anything that we didn't hit on my list of things that I liked and didn't like real quick if it didn't come up. We talked about the Star Lord arc with Gamora. We didn't really talk about the CGI that much, but I really thought like given all the recent Marvel movies, like the CGI complaints that we've had, well, that
Yeah,
I've had at least,
they did a very good job in this
I
movie.
think the CGI was much better. I think the set for Nowhere, like the Guardians base,
Hmm.
looked very cool. Like it looked
Yeah, it
alive.
looked
It
like it
looked
could be at Disney or something. It looked like a place that you could
exactly
have
like
like at.
Diagon Alley or some shit,
Hmm.
you
It
know?
was very very cool, very well done. I like that too.
Yeah, so I honestly think they will make because in Disney World in California they have the Guardians ride right now.
Hmm.
Um, they in their Marvel world, I guarantee you they make Nowhere.
Oh, I
Like
bet you they do something like the Guardians Alley or something. I could see that.
it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, with like the milk drink and stuff. 100%. Like the milk
Yeah,
drink that Rocket drinks. Yeah.
yeah. Cons, length and pacing for me, like the length of this movie, kind of like the length of this podcast is just way too long.
It's drawn out.
The pacing too, like some scenes felt like they were gonna last forever and they shouldn't have.
Hmm.
Like that scene where
Living room.
in the living room with Drax on the couch and shit, like that was just a bad joke that they just dwelled on for so long. And I think sometimes James Gunn thinks his jokes are very funny and they're not. And he does it over and over again. And nobody in his circle has the balls to be like,
Because
yeah,
it's James Gunn.
yeah, that fucking couch joke is shit. Just say it once and end it. You don't have to dwell on it like it's terrible.
Hmm.
Um, one thing that I did think was kind of cute that they dwelled on was the Cosmo running joke of her being a bad dog.
That was hilarious. I love
Yeah,
that. I would not take that out.
if you're a dog owner and you didn't like that, then you're fucking soulless. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I'm calling PETA.
Yeah, yeah, I will literally call Pete on you. The one of the biggest things I hated was Peter in space. Another death fake out scene, by the way. Uh, I hated those fucking death fake out scenes. Peter in space, about to die, and I'm like, "Hey, hit your fucking helmet, douchebag!" And he's just like, "Oh, can't do that." Where'd the helmet go? He doesn't wear his helmet at all in this movie,
That's what I was gonna
and
say. He didn't wear it once, which is so
he
annoying.
doesn't use it one time. And the one
Not only
time
does
in
he
the
not use
movie
that,
where
he doesn't even use his rocket, like his rockets.
no, and he never, dude, this shit just made me so mad. Like you're in space, bro. Like I've never seen him not use his helmet when he's about to
Mhm.
go into a battle. Um. Anyway, so that was one thing I did not like. The post credit scene is fucking terrible. Both of them. Him sitting there eating cereal. Guys, if you didn't watch this movie yet, and for whatever reason you're still here listening to this an hour and almost 40 minutes in, um, first of all, thank you. Second of all,
Yes.
if you do go see this movie, there are two post credit scenes. Only stay for one of them. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even, knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't stay for either. Actually, no, I
No,
would stay for the
I think
first one.
you could watch a YouTube video and you could see both of them. I mean, I
Yeah,
can go into my stuff too after that because
yeah,
I
and
touch
then
on
I
that
think
shit.
the last thing I didn't like, I mean, we talked about Adam Warlock. The last thing I didn't like was Gamora. I thought Gamora was a little too out of character. I know she's from a different timeline and stuff like that, but it's still the same personality type. She's just from 2014. And if you look at like the first Guardians movie, she has like a moral compass. She's like the one that makes the Guardians do moral shit. Like
Mhm.
Quill is a thief. He wants to go do shit just for money. Rocket
She
wants to
calls them
fucking
dishonorable. Yeah.
exactly. So I think she was just a little too out of character for me. But yeah, that's it.
No,
Overall,
that's a good point.
yeah. Overall, though, I think what I would rate this movie out of 10, five being average, and obviously anything below five being less than average. I think I would give it a 7.5. And I think I will also say that this is the best movie from the MCU since Endgame. I liked it more than No Way Home, uh, and I liked it. Yeah, uh huh, uh huh. I liked it more than No Way Home. And it was better than everything since Endgame. Uh, Harry's fucking absolutely triggered right now. Oh my god. All right, go
Doing a
ahead.
podcast.
Final.
I'm doing a podcast on the absolute imbecile. It's fucking crazy. um
Check my
so no,
hat out.
I agree. I agree a lot. I agree with a lot of stuff. I would say I have a couple things. Which I mean, one of them you already alluded to, which the no helmet in the movie was so annoying to me. I don't understand like why they changed Star Lord, like Star Lord, like they took away a crucial part of his outfit. So I
Shit
don't
made me so
understand
mad.
that. I don't understand that. One of the things I said, which this is like a hypercritical point when it comes to like, but it's a serious point because they make it a serious point in other scenes. That's very weird that they pick and choose. I think obviously there's only so much that you can do, and there's always going to be plot holes or something that in a scene. But for me, like I really didn't like the inconsistencies, like space logic or like space physics, like when they had like a window get blown out when they're flying around in space and no one's getting frozen. But then when Peter Quill goes into space, he starts freezing immediately. Or when they start flying up on the ship, they start freezing and be like they can't breathe. So like they pick and choose the scenes where they do it. There's one scene where Rocket gets like his window for his spaceship gets punched out and he's in space and everyone on board just like, oh yeah, and they keep flying around. So that part kind of was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Not that it's a big deal,
Yeah.
but it's just like kind of weird.
No,
um
I mean it's I critique shit like that, so I
yeah.
feel it.
So I would say the no helmet obviously was a thing for me. Mine was the open-ended characters. I didn't like how they ended,
Oh
which
yeah.
once again we've already talked about this, where we've said that they do this so that people can be cameo and stuff. I did not like the reasons of the split up. Like if you're gonna get
Yeah.
rid of characters and they're not gonna do it anymore, just either make the movie have some serious sentimental value and do something to where they can't be in the movie
They should
again.
have killed one of the
They should have
characters.
they should have killed, like if like for example Drax. Like I know Batista said that he just can't do the physicality part of it anymore. He can't keep up with the health regiment that he needs to be have a superhero body. For
Yep.
me, I don't he doesn't have to be shirtless anymore. He could easily put on a shirt or he could easily have something on and Drax could still be Drax. And then in movie scenes, they could use CGI for him. I could care less about that. It's Batista if he wants to do it, but I think it's more because of James Gunn isn't going to be a part of it. That's kind
That
of why a lot of
definitely
these
has a lot
characters
to
want to
do with it.
leave, which is fine. But I don't like the way that they ended the Guardians. I think that it was a very they did it open ended, so it was like a cop out for them to be able to use these characters in the future because they're not gone, they're not dead. But if they want to use them in future movies, they have the ability to.
Right.
I didn't like the way they closed it. I don't think that the reasons that they had were good enough to warrant them from being like oh well, we can't be heroes anymore because of this. Like all of their reasonings were super minor, super selfish in a way, I guess, or like they're them just trying to get out of it, or like the easiest way
Yeah,
possible to like not be guardians anymore. Think that was stupid. I think they could have done a little bit more creative writing for that. Like watching kids, like come on, you have a whole village of people that could all watch him while you go save the world. Like what's the
yeah,
difference between like Captain Marvel saving the world or someone else saving the world and be like, oh, we can't do it because we blew up this building and we have to look out all the old people that are in the building now. Like it's just kind of stupid.
yeah.
Um,
I agree with
yeah,
you on that. I hated the way it ended with,
yeah,
you
I
know,
did not
the
like the way that
characters
they did that.
where they're at.
Yeah, it's just so random. The high evolutionary standing, we already kind of touched on it. They kind of, I think, like me and Sean both thought that there's probably two shots that were shot for this. One shot where they actually absolutely showed him dying or like being like obliterated or something, and they chose to go with the shot of him not of them not showing him dying because of the fact where he's like a scapegoat in case something goes wrong with Kang. Like if there's legal obligations that they can't use him and they don't want to recast him because they're gonna have lash out regardless. Like if they choose to recast him, people are gonna freak out and be super hypercritical about it. And then if they don't recast him and he does get charged, but they just wait, then people are gonna freak out that they have a criminal on set. So it's like kind of a lose-lose situation for them. So I think that they have the high evolutionary as a backup, and they kind of kept it that way. So I'm kind of okay with that. But it would all depend on how the storyline comes out because they would have to change everything. Essentially, they'd have to change everything. I know that Galactus just got confirmed for the one of the villains for the Fantastic Four movie, and there's supposed to be more than one, but Galactus is one of them and one of the major ones. So I don't know how they're going to do it. I've already talked to Sean about this as well. If Jonathan Majors is out, they may introduce Galactus as the cosmic evil of the universe at the time, and then have Doctor Doom kind of be introduced way earlier than they expected him to be introduced, and kind of go that route into Secret Wars. But we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to judge any. You're innocent until proven guilty. So until we hear about the court date and everything and how everything transpires, there's no real way to know. Um, and then the cutscenes, Sean already said that too. The cutscenes for me, I kind of looked into a little bit of like why they did it. So like for me, I was telling him Marvel created a culture and like a known thing about
You're
their
talking
movies,
about the
which
post
is
credit scene, yeah,
yeah, like which is the post credit scenes.
yeah, yeah.
Everyone knows from when people found out about the Easter egg of post credit scenes. Everyone knows that if you're in a Marvel movie, the credits start. It's the only movies where people do not get up from their seats, which is a very cool thing. They created that culture. They created that tradition. And the last like 3 or 4 movies, they have absolutely shit on that tradition where they have put no value into the cutscenes. Like before, when they were leading up into Infinity War and Thanos, every single cutscene was them teasing something that was about to happen, like them teasing
There's a
a
fucking
hero
a
or them
breadcrumb
teasing a
on
villain,
the
where it was
trail.
like everyone would, the whole crowd would be like, oh shit, like that's gonna happen, or oh shit, what does this mean? Or like, oh shit, this is still happening, or this person's still alive. Like something that has value. The last couple of post credit scenes have just been comedic relief or like gag reels that have nothing to do with what's happening. The only thing that I saw with this Peter Quill Earth scene was him talking about Kevin Bacon, which was them plugging the Christmas special because the Christmas special had Kevin Bacon in it.
Right.
But the only reason why they did this, and I know what the cop out's gonna be, which is Peter Quill's on Earth. So when something happens on Earth, he's there. He's not in the galaxy somewhere. He's there to help. And I understand that because like when they said Star Lord will return, get that. Not a fan of how they're doing things. Give us something. Like if Galactus is coming, like the last, I think the last scene that was actually good was Shang-Chi when they showed the rings as beacons, and Wong was like they're calling to somebody, and that was the
Yeah,
last.
that felt like it was gonna have
Like
meaning
it's
or
teasing
meaning.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
like there's something coming, like, oh shit, what's it calling to? What's the entity? Is it good? Is it bad? Like that has value.
yeah,
That has something
yeah.
that they can lean off of. Peter Quill eating cereal with his grandpa that has no significance in the MCU.
Trash.
Why waste my time for 30 minutes after credits for that? Like it's kind of I don't know if I want to use the word insulting, but it's definitely a letdown and it's definitely a disappointment because they were known for something and now they're just kind of abandoning ship and it's like
It's like
why
they're
create the
doing it
tradition?
just to do it now.
Yeah,
Like,
they can't think of anything creative, so they're just like, oh, let's just
yeah.
put one of our cutscenes from everyone
And
in
you
the
know
break
what?
room.
And you want to know what it kind of scares me is like it tells me that they might not have a plan because
Yeah, because they
the
don't know what to lead up to because they have too
yeah,
much going on. They don't know
exactly.
they don't know what storyline they want to do yet, and I kind of agree with you on that, and that's why
Yep.
things keep getting pushed back. Um,
Hmm.
and then the last thing that I have, which is totally out, and then I'll give you my my final grade, which is Nova. They did the in Guardians of the Galaxy. They
Yeah.
had the Nova Corps was involved in every single movie. I guess not really this one, but they did talk about
They talked
the
about it. Yeah.
Kree. So like Nova is another superhero that comes from the Nova Corps. He's human. He has abilities. He's kind of like Adam Warlock in a way, where he's got like super strength. He has
Yeah, I was
abilities
gonna say
like
it's kind of like Captain Marvel too.
yeah. He's a strong being. He's a very strong entity, but he comes from the Nova Corps. Like he serves Nova, and his name is Nova. So like he with all the movies that we've had with Nova getting attacked by Ronan in the first movie, Nova should have been there to help the Guardians and the Ravengers protect Nova. And then
Yeah.
the second movie, like it's just kind of weird that they took out a character when they had all the opportunity to include him in Nova when the whole first movie, the whole second half of the movie was all stationed at Nova Corps. Like it was just kind of weird that they didn't introduce him. But other than that, I would say this movie was very, very well done. I think that the writing was very good. I think that the jokes were funny. I was laughing the whole time. Mantis was hilarious. Drax was hilarious. It's going to be very sad not having
I
them in
thought
the
there was a
MCU.
good. I thought it was almost the perfect amount of comedic relief, like a
Hmm.
couple of too many jokes that didn't really land for me, but I think the
Yeah, I
amount
agree.
of
I mean,
jokes.
I as much as I don't like the couch scene and how it was drawn out, it was still funny. I still laughed. Like I still thought it was funny, but it served no purpose. Like just
Yeah, I'm
like some of the
sure.
other scenes, they served no purpose. They were
Yeah,
funny,
and I'm
but
sure
there's
somebody
no
probably found it funny. You know what I mean?
yeah
For them, maybe the fuck you scene is not funny to them, and the couch
yeah that
scene is funny.
yeah I get
So
you. Um,
tomato tomato. But yeah, I agree.
I would say as like I thought it was really cool that they decided to make a Rocket origin story. I thought it was very creative on how they brought
Yeah.
in the high evolutionary. I thought that was a very creative way. Um, in my opinion, I don't like how they ended it. I thought that the movie was very good until the end. Um, I wasn't the biggest fan of Adam Warlock. I think that they, like Sean said, they kind of ruined him unless they change his ability where he's kind of like Vision, where he's stupid because he's a cosmic being. Like his whole thing is like he dies, he puts himself in a cocoon and becomes stronger. Like he's immortal. Like he is like he's a cosmic entity. He's supposed to be all knowing, all powerful, all strong, and they kind of made him into a dope. So I'll be interested to see how they kind of handle this situation, what they do. I don't know if there's a lot that they can do to save, like he said, but I don't think that he's going to have a big role. I don't think that this Guardian squad is going to have a big role. If anything, if they have like some sort of like end game fight scene, they'll just show up and they'll just be there.
Yeah,
They
I
have no
agree.
significance.
I don't think
The
they're gonna
only
do much with these characters
the
without
only way I
James
can
Gunn.
see that they do something is Rocket because he's so Rocket and Groot. But even then, like, what value are they going to bring?
I mean, what are the honestly the most I could see like fucking animated shorts on Disney Plus with Rocket and Groot. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But
It's
that's
just
about it.
it's sad because like Rocket and Groot or especially Rocket has had interactions with all the Avengers,
Yeah.
especially in Endgame because he was there for everything.
Yeah.
So
He
it's
didn't
kind
get
of weird.
dusted.
But I would give at the end of the day, I would say 8 out of 10. I think that they held true to a lot of things. The soundtrack was awesome from the first opening scene to the last scene. The music was fantastic. I really love how they incorporate music in the scenes as they're being cut. I think that that's awesome, and that's what they're known for. Um, I would say that all the character development that they had for some of the other characters like Rocket, that was insane. They did a very good
Mm.
job. Groot, they showed him change drastically over the course of the movie.
He
Um,
talks,
yeah, he
says
talks.
something other than "I am Groot."
Yeah, I love you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say 8 out of 10. I was very pleased. I was not expecting it to be that good because everything that Disney has produced over the last couple of years has not been the best. But I really enjoyed this film. I can see myself going to see it again. Um, but I don't know. I don't know if I could watch it in a theater. I think I'd have to watch it at
Yeah.
home because it's a you're sitting there for a long time. I had to pee
It's
five
long.
times during that movie.
Yeah, it's long. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's it's a fair score. I could have rated this. I felt like anywhere between a 7 and an 8.
Hmm.
And I that's kind of why I just landed on a 7.5. I don't think it's just a little better than average. I mean, this they're putting these characters kind of like to bed. You know what I mean? Like I think
Yeah,
James
it's
realizes most of those
tough.
characters aren't going to come back.
Mhm.
So you could tell by the way this movie went. Like, and I know at the end of the movie it does say Star Lord will return. I don't know how, and I don't know when. They asked Chris Pratt, hey, are you coming back? And he just said, if it makes sense, I would come back, but it's really hard to see myself continuing Peter Quill's story without James Gunn being a part of it. So I don't know. We'll see. I thought this was a good movie though, and I like to be able to say that because I feel like I've been a bit of a Debbie Downer when it comes to the Marvel universe recently. With most of the movies coming out, I didn't really like. I liked Doctor Strange the first time I saw it, and then I tried to rewatch it, and I couldn't even finish it. I was like, this
Which
movie is
one?
actually the newest one, Multiverse of Madness, is kind of ass. But I really like this. I can see myself watching this again as well. The only reason I wouldn't watch it again is because I really did think there was a lot of sad scenes. It's a very dour, sad
Mhm.
kind of movie. It does have somewhat of a happy ending, but there is a lot of sadness throughout with Rocket's
Yeah, it's
set
definitely it's
scenes.
definitely definitely because it's kind of cool because they did like the second one was Peter Quill's origin, and this one, the
Yeah,
third one, is now Rocket. So it's kind of cool that they went through and they kind of did a lot of Gamora stuff throughout, like Thanos' origins. So everyone kind of got their own spiel, I guess, except for Groot. But I would
yeah.
say from the second one going to this one, because I was not a fan of the second
Oh, this
Guardians.
is way better than the second one.
This one it's in its own class at that point. Like I
The
would put
second
this
one for
one,
me was a 5 out of 10. It was just
yeah,
an
I would put
average
I would
kinda
put
MCU movie,
yeah, it was just like a filler movie. Like
Yeah,
they had an antagonist. The antagonist died. Nothing happens. There's no value from the Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It was
yep,
just a movie for them to put in between before Infinity War. I
mhm,
would say this movie is very comparable to what I would compare it to as far as Guardians 1. I'd put it very close to that. I had if you watch our first episode, I think I had Guardians as my fourth overall best movie.
yeah.
I would put this.
Guardians
I
1
would
is
put
still
this
better
very
than
close.
this to me,
Guardians One
but,
is better than this one because
um,
there's less going on.
it's only a 2-hour movie,
Yeah, well,
and they do just as much, you know
and
what I
it's
mean? Like, they
it's
accomplish the
hard
same amount of stuff.
it's hard to compare because the Guardians One had such an easier route because they already had a this is the difference between the phases, and we kind of just went over this, is that they have no clue where they're going with this phase. They have
Yeah,
no direction. They're just making a movie and trying to make puzzle pieces fit and see where they can put these characters into this big Avengers movie because they set themselves up for they have to match what they just did, or otherwise it's a failure. If they don't match the last phase, it's going to be a
Well,
failure
yeah,
in
and
our
now it's
eyes
like if
and
these
their
movies don't
eyes.
make $1 billion, it's a failure.
Yeah.
Like for
And
them, every movie needs to make $1 billion because of their
mhm.
budget, how high the budgets are for these movies. Like
Yeah.
if it doesn't make $1 billion, it's a failure.
Yeah.
Like
And like
straight up.
the first Guardians had all the direction in the world. Like they knew what they were doing. They knew
They had
that
a
this was the
long-term plan.
movie. They knew that this was the movie where they were going to set up for Thanos and the Infinity Stones. They introduced the first Infinity Stone. They explained all the Infinity Stones in the movie and the first
Yeah,
Guardians. They show Thanos for the first time. They This is the first movie where you actually see like outside of Earth, like all the different realms and everything. So it was a the Guardians one had a lot to offer. This one has a lot to offer too. It's just in a different way because we don't know where it's going yet. Now we could come back in like a year, and after everything's said and done, this movie could go up even more. Maybe this movie introduces things that we just don't know yet, and
yeah.
it's setting things up for the future, which very well could be. But with
Mhm.
James Gunn leaving, I don't know how I felt more of just like a end of a trilogy, and he wanted to do everything he could to make it as good as possible, and kind of like put his own spin on the MCU because he's never going to come back. So that's kind of what it felt like to
Yeah,
me. I hope that's not the case, but we'll see. We'll see in the coming films.
yeah, we finna find out.
Yeah, we are finna to find out.
But yeah, so that is the Nerdcast review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Um thank you guys so much for
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just so you guys know, this was only supposed to be an hour long.
uh thank you guys for listening. Shit. Thank you guys
if
for
if
listening.
if anyone
Um
listened to the end, please comment. We have to give them we have to give it like a like some sort of like Easter egg code, like for them to for them to write on to the comments to see
this
if
is
anyone actually listened the whole thing.
this is the Nerdcast post credit scene right now.
Yeah. So if you listen all the way to the end,
Comment below and say you stayed for the post credit scene.
oh yeah, comment below that this post credit scene was way better than
Yeah.
Peter Quill
If,
eating cereal with his grandfather.
yeah, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Also, comment down below. Let us know what you guys thought of the movie. I put a poll out on our Instagram. If you're not following, please go over there and follow. It's there's a
Yeah,
link
give
in
us your
our
grades.
we'll put a link in the description of this video to our Instagram.
Hmm.
Um, but go check out the Instagram. Tell us what you think in that poll and comment down below your score for this movie. I want to know what you think. That way I can respond to your comment, let you know why you're wrong. So, please
Naturally.
do that.
Yes. Please do.
Thank you guys again, and we'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya.
Peace.